Welcome to the Perfect Life Awakening Show, hosted by Royce Morales. Royce has been a transformational facilitator, teaching groundbreaking, spiritually based courses for more than 4 decades. She is the author of 3 books about her teachings. Join Royce as she takes you on a journey into how to live your best life and find your true purpose through discovering the origins of subconscious, disempowering notions and releasing them. She talks with experts and inspiring people just like you who learned to trust their intuitive inner wisdom, which led to life-changing shifts. Today, her guests live an empowered existence and are helping change the world to a higher consciousness place based on truth and love. You deserve to awaken to, align with, and embody your true self and live a life filled with love. Transform yourself from triggered to empowered and create your perfect life. Here is your host, Royce Morales.
Hello, welcome to my show. I am so excited today to, first of all, finally have something technological that works. It's been a crazy week. I don't even really ascribe that much to astrology, but Mercury in retrograde is killer. So hopefully we're done with it for a while. Anyway, I am excited today because I get to interview somebody so fascinating. I can't even imagine how many things this woman is doing and has done, and she's going to talk to us about some of those things, especially being an intuitive channel that just kind of landed in her lap, and I can't wait to hear that story. But before we get into that, I just want to mention that finally, I'm going to be starting a new 10-week Perfect Life Awakening program on January 26th, which is a Sunday. We're going to do it in the afternoon because there's so many different time zones that I'm dealing with. So if you're interested in discovering how you are sabotaging yourself and how to regain your empowerment, reach out to me at my website, perfectlifeawakening.com, and I will give you all the details. It's a 10-week course, and it's very empowering, just amazing. I keep the groups small so that we can have individual attention to everybody. They're very open and supportive and loving and empowering. So enough about me. Let me introduce you to Stephanie Banks. She is an intuitive channel, as I've mentioned. She mentors people to assist them in trusting their intuition. And what she does is she helps people, and you, if you're interested, connect with the souls of those departed people, not only people, but angels and guides and animals and nature and trees and all kinds of things, because everything does have a spirit, and we can connect with those things. She helps people discern their own inner voice of intuition and wisdom, enhancing self-trust, confidence, improving their relationships, clarifying their soul's purpose, finding their laughter and joy. What other possible things could you need in life? And what I think is really interesting is she is a speech pathologist, and I have had a lot of interaction with speech pathologists after my husband's stroke 10 years ago. And so I know a lot about, in fact, I know so much I could probably be a speech pathologist. And they're always so interesting. And I've never met one that is an intuitive speech pathologist. I think that's pretty fascinating too. I'll have to find out about that. Excuse me. So she's also an author. I forgot to mention that. So enough introduction. There's just so much more I could say about you, Stephanie. So welcome to my show.
Thank you so much, Royce. Thanks for having me, and I'm really delighted to see where our conversation meanders today.
Yes, me too. Me too. So first of all, tell us, how did this land in your lap? Tell us the whole story about that. That just sounds so amazing.
Sure. Well, I need to add that the majority of my channeling work is actually channeling souls that are here on the planet.
Oh, okay.
Not as much in the mediumship with the departed ones, though I do that. My greatest excitement and joy comes from channeling someone's higher self who's here, or the higher self of their child or spouse or supervisor, or anyone else for that matter. And the way that I came to this work was out of necessity, because my mother had a type of dementia that affected her in her 50s. So it was a more rare form, and they weren't so good at diagnosing it. This was many years ago. For a period of time, we really struggled as a family because her personality was changing, and of course her cognitive abilities were declining, but we didn't really know what was going on. So my relationship with her was suffering greatly, even with my clinical background as a speech pathologist, even with everything that I know about working with people who have cognitive challenges. We were not we were not able to meet of the minds, so to speak, with my mom and I. It was just getting frustrating and exhausting. And so luckily for me, I had a dear friend at the time who was a very gifted channel. She's the first person that introduced me to channeling. I knew nothing about this prior. And I asked her if she would please help me to channel my mother's higher self. This is while my mom is still living, and help me understand what we're actually here to do together, because I knew I kept missing the mark and our relationship was suffering so much. So my friend channeled my mom. I remember we were sitting outside in the grass. It was at night. We had a little tiny fire in a fire pit. And I got to ask the questions of my mother's soul that I was really wanting to know. I got to ask her, how can I support you? What do you need from me? Where am I being helpful? Where am I being a hindrance? What are our souls here to do together? Do we have a contract? Do we have some pre-existing, agreement that we're here to play out? Because I did want us to have the opportunity to complete whatever we were here to complete without getting in the way. And I learned what I needed to learn, and it changed forever my relationship with my mom. It gave me clarity that I was desperate to have. It allowed me to make better choices in my interactions with her. It nudged me when to just hold my tongue and not try to correct things or change things, and when to step in and advocate for her. And my mom's on the other side now, and our relationship is fabulous. But it also got to be fabulous even during and through her dementia, because of the clarity that the channeling brought. So when I saw what it could do for that relationship, I thought, I have to learn how to do this for myself across the board, because it was so healing and it was so profoundly illuminating. So I started to take classes. I started to go to the mentor that my dear friend saw and learned to channel from. I also got training from Sonia Choquette, who is a world-renowned psychic medium. I read everything I could. I studied, I practiced. I worked with a pendulum a whole lot at first. That was the first tool I was taught to channel with. And fast forward, 16 plus years, and now I am a very clear channel. I channel for people all over the world, and I teach people how to channel for themselves.
Wow. That's amazing. So do you still do speech therapy with people?
No, I
No?
decided to let go of that part of my work. How long has it been? Maybe 10 years ago, 8 years ago. I've lost count. I felt like I couldn't give the fullness of myself to the channeling work if I was also moving in and out of, because I worked in hospitals, and it's a very intense environment, as you can imagine. And it's draining, it's energetically draining in a different sort of way. Also, in the hospital environment, I should say, without exaggeration, intuition isn't really welcomed there.
Really?
I know, it's shocking.
Yeah.
But so I would have a deeper connection and understanding of my patients that I worked with, but I really wasn't able to free that whole part of me in order to bring everything that I possibly could to the interactions. And that's fine. I love my clinical mind. I love having that left brain logical approach to things, but it was time for me to let it go so I could devote fully to this work. And I haven't looked back. I don't miss being a speech pathologist, though I loved it.
Yeah. I'm just getting a strange thought that I can just imagine you writing on your evaluations. And by the way, I sensed that. I
I
don't
had
think
to
it'll
keep
go over real well with your supervisor.
No, I kept a lot to myself because I understood very well the environment that I was in. I worked as a speech pathologist for over 20 years in medical speech pathology. So I knew that scenario quite well, though I did have a supervisor who, when I gave my notice that I was leaving, and she asked me why, and I told her, well, this is what I actually do and what I want to devote my time to. She said, I just got chills all over my body.
Oh,
And she
wow.
said, and I want you to do this. And I want to be part of it. I want to come to see you in action. And she's been a supporter of my work. So I didn't expect that. And that was really
Wow.
beautiful.
What a confirmation. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
So I noticed that you said that you went to various places to learn how to be a channeler. I too, that was actually the beginning of my spiritual and metaphysical journey, was to find out that I had that ability, which not only did I not know, but I also didn't believe in all of this metaphysical stuff in those days. And that
Yeah.
was 40 years ago. And I went to classes and I developed it, but I think most of it happened when I was just doing it, when I kind of was face to face with people that needed information and connection. So how do you teach people how to do it? How do you learn how to do it? Is it even possible to learn?
Yeah. If I can learn how to do this, anyone can learn how to do this. There is nothing special or unique to me that somehow places me in a category that is separate from everybody else. And I've been teaching this long enough to see the proof of that. I watch people astonish themselves constantly in my classes. They come in and they're uncertain and insecure and doubtful of their own connection to spirit, their higher self, their inner wisdom. And with the right strategies and the right support and encouragement, oh my gosh, it's limitless what they can do. So I feel a lot of channeling, probably 90 some percent of it, is self-trust. Is your willingness to trust what's coming through. And a big percentage of it as well is maintaining yourself as a high vibrational frequency, because I only teach how to attune to fifth dimensional consciousness. That's the only place that I'm tapping into when I channel. That is unity consciousness. That is pure love. And so we don't come to that space with heaviness and grumpiness and irritability and and all that. We come to that space with joy, so we're that point of attraction for what can come through and uplift. And this work is meant to be uplifting, and it is. So I think a lot of people fear, well, what if I tune into this? What if I open to this and all this heaviness and darkness comes through? And that has not happened to me, because I devote myself to phenomenal self-care, and everything that I do that is in service to my heart's joy and levity is going to be in service to my connection to spirit, because that's the energetics that I am inviting in. And so it's a win-win there. I get to do fun, wonderful things in my life and also be of the highest service for spirit and those that I serve as well.
Yeah. So what about, you were saying it's all about trust, but what about, at least for me, I arrived with such skepticism. I was very, very, very left brain and thought all of this stuff was bunk. So, and the teacher would explain all of this stuff, and I'd sit there and I'd go, yeah, right. And then when it started to happen to me, of course, a lot of my skepticism went away. But I know that there are a lot of people that can't get past that. How do you deal with people like that?
Luckily, I have not encountered anyone that can't get past it. I find that if they find their ways to my classes and my work, there is some level of investment by that point in time.
Yeah.
And so we can work with skepticism. I do it every day. I also have a very robust left linear thinking brain, and I'm not knocking it. It does some amazing things for me, but I also know how to cultivate and enrich and create a robustness of the right hemisphere with its playfulness and creativity and intuition and receptivity and spiritual connection. So we're meant to be integrated beings. And I invite people, bring your skepticism to the table. We can work alongside it, but if you do give it the megaphone, it will get in your way.
Yeah. I think for me, the skepticism ended up being my ally, so to speak, because I was so skeptical and I started having these things happen and I couldn't deny them.
Mm-hmm.
So it helped me get past it in a huge leap. So yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So you said self-care. What does that mean to you? It's such a buzzword right now. It cracks me up. Everybody talks about self-care and bubble baths and going to the spa. It's not that at all, is it? Tell us what you
No.
mean by self-care.
Yeah, I'm more referring to my connection to my amazing soul and spirit and the things that make me joyful. And I don't mean happy, because there's a difference, I think, between happiness and joy. But
Yes.
the things that bring me joy are what I add to what I call, bodacious self-care. This for me is time in nature. It's a must. If I find myself within my walls for too long, I start to feel a little bit crusty and and just parched, for the beauty and the energy and the regenerative energy that nature can provide, and the miracles, because there's life. I love to look out my windows. There's life happening outside all the time, and being witness to it, what a gift. And that's also why we're here on this planet. We could have chosen anywhere to be or not to incarnate at all, but yet we're here and we have all of this beautiful life around us. So self-care isn't really, I have nothing against bubble baths, but it's not really just that the simple action of doing something that gives you a break. It's the regular nourishing of your heart and of your spirit that allows for you to clear out noise, energy that doesn't serve you, anything that brings you, to a lower vibrational place, and brings you, and something that brings you into a higher vibrational place, which is what joy does. So there are lots of different things people use for this type of self-care, and enrichment of the mind, I think, is very important too. Reading things and studying teachers and guides that are inspirational to you. Inspiration means to be in spirit. So there's lots of ways to nourish your own spirit, and that I consider self-care.
Yeah. So I don't want to bring down this conversation, but it seems like there's so much stuff right now with the planet going on, the wars and the political turmoil and all of that. How do you incorporate that, or how do you block it? What is your feeling about all of dealing with all of the very intense energetic things going on around us?
Yeah. Well, it's not easy for me. I consider myself highly sensitive and highly empathic. So I do feel the global suffering. And most specifically, I feel the suffering of the planet, the more than human beings, all the animals, all the trees, all of the creatures. So this causes me pain, emotional pain, spiritual pain, physical pain. Sometimes it's depleting. I have to be very attentive to this, because it's the kind of thing that could keep me in bed all day,
Yeah,
So this is why nature, again, is so important, because if I am in service to the world that I see as possible, and the world that my heart knows is possible, then I am offering that purpose and meaning and joy, which is, again, self-care. So instead of reading news, which I do believe we have a responsibility to titrate and limit, because that can hijack all of our thoughts and even our intentions. I actually give myself tasks that support or opportunities to support others whose work in the world is deeply meaningful to me. So I love to do fundraisers. I love to identify people and organizations that are making a difference in the world, that are attending to those who are in war-torn areas, that are bringing healing, that are bringing restoration and repair, that are tending to the animals, that are reforesting the planet. I could go on forever, but these people make me smile, and they are the biggest hearts walking about on the planet, and I want to get behind them in every way that I can to see what I can do that's in service alongside. So that's actually how I manage it. It's what can I do in service to the world I know is possible, rather than what more can I read about how things are just circling the drain.
That's a great metaphor. I like that. Yeah. So back to, no, I want to talk to you about channeling or sensing nature. I think that's a really interesting topic. How does that work? How do you? I know sometimes I live in the forest, which is
Mhm.
amazing, but I walk out and I instantly feel better because I
Yes.
know I'm taking on that incredible energy, but I don't take it further all the time. I should, but I
Mhm.
don't take it further and say, okay, what is the message here? What are you trying to tell me? How does that work for you?
Just as you described,
Yeah.
you greet the trees and you ask them, do you have any stories to share?
Mm.
Would you like me, would you like me to know anything? May I give you a hug? May I place my heart against your trunk? May I sit with you a while and just meditate with your energy? So it's so simple, because nature doesn't have any requirements or policies or protocols with regards to how we can connect with her. And the trees do want to talk to us. They're talking to me all the time. And so do the worms, by the way. And so do the bees. And so do, every single creature is in and of itself its own messenger, really. And you can look this up in on any site, website that has like animal messengers. Sometimes I'll see, a snake cross my path, and instead of getting scared or repulsed, I'll look up, what is the snake medicine about? What is the significance of snake as a power animal? And I'll be darned if it doesn't always have significance to me at that particular moment in my life. So next time you go out in your forest, just connect to that. You can also connect to the mycelial network that is right underneath your feet. All of these communications that the trees are making with each other, it's a community. And they're supporting each other, and they're bringing each other carbon and sugars and warning each other about dangers. It's amazing. The more we learn about nature, the more we recognize ourselves as her, because we are nature and nature is us. And then we can be in non-separation.
I love that. That's great. Yes. Excuse me, I have to go and talk to the trees for a
That's
moment.
right.
I'll be right back.
That's right.
Okay, well, so a common question that I'm sure you're asked all the time. I know, it took me years to be able to discern the difference between my thoughts and my intuition, or my thoughts and my channeling. How do you tell people about that? How do you teach people to discern the two?
Yeah. Well, I'm going to assume that by thoughts, you mean like the voice of ego.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're totally different. They feel different in the body, and I believe in using our body as the best vessel for truth, because it can't lie, it won't lie, it's never lied. The body does not lie. So we all know what it feels like when we hear something that brings us warmth and expansion, and we really want to lean into it. Usually the body will signal us. For me, I feel most of that in my heart. And we all know what it feels like when we are in a situation or conversation where we just want to run, get out of that. We want to retreat. I feel constriction in my heart in those examples. So you can use your body as the litmus test for what's true and not true. And you can just ask, is this true for me right now? And let your sensations and your body inform you. But the voice of ego will always feel constricted, warning based, or fear based, a little loud and shouty. It kind of can compete with the loudness of the outer world. And the voice of intuition is subtle by nature. So we have to align ourselves with subtle energy in order to be able to perceive the voice of intuition, because it's not going to shout usually. And there's so much richness to it and nuance to it that it's our job to kind of calibrate our frequency to that more clearly. That's what I would say.
Yeah. I always tell people that intuition is knowing that you know and not knowing how.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just
And-
there. You just know.
And
Yeah.
not having to defend it.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Although when it turns into ego, then you find that you're defending it. It's like,
Well,
really?
yeah.
I know this.
But we don't have to defend what we intuitively know, even if we're challenged by it. And that is a very slippery slope. It's also an endless hamster wheel, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. There were a lot of things that I did based on my intuition. In fact, most of my life was based on my intuition. And a lot of times it was questioned. And I found that if I did have to defend it, something going on there, why am I having to defend this? So yeah, it's definitely a slippery slope.
Yeah.
So I am talking with Stephanie Banks, and we need to take a little bit of a mid break here. We'll be talking more about your books and the book that you're writing right now, and all kinds of other fun things about intuition and trusting. So we'll be right back.
Om Times TV. Do you crave joy but feel stuck? Do you go through life feeling constantly triggered and frustrated? Fear is likely the culprit, and subconscious fear is likely sabotaging you. Perfect Life Awakening is a time-tested, spiritually based approach to inner transformation created by Royce Morales. For over 40 years, she has helped people get to the origins of subconscious fears and ultimately help them find their true purpose and a life full of joy. Sign up for Perfect Life Awakening today at roycemorales.com. You deserve to go from triggered to empowered, shifting your life with Perfect Life Awakening. Imagine becoming a super influencer. Reinvent yourself, invest in your brand, and then manifest your success with a robust spheric approach. Om Times Media and Broadcasting offers a unique and multifaceted way to become the spiritual and conscious influencer you deserve to be by putting your message across our powerful platform with its proven record of integrity and excellence. Through our produced shows, Om Times offers the opportunity to become a social media TV personality, a radio show host, an Om Times magazine columnist, and a syndicated podcaster, all in one shot. By live streaming your show on Om Times TV and broadcasting it across the extensive Om Times radio and TV networks, you become more than a host. You become an ambassador and a force for positive change. Om Times. Open yourself to the possibilities.
I want to eat apples and bananas. I need to eat apples and bananas. Why can't I eat apples and bananas?
Support the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks to help provide meals to those in need. Join us at feedingamerica.org.
Welcome back. I am talking to Stephanie Banks. Fascinating, interesting discussion about intuition and all kinds of things. I want to talk a little bit more about plants and nature, because you mentioned in your bio that you also communicate with animals. Tell us about that, because I have so many interesting stories about communicating with a certain dog of mine that is sitting here listening to this whole thing. So tell us about that.
I love that you have a dog listening. I have 4 that are listening right now. I'm a bit of a collector. So animal energy, I find to be the purest positive energy, which makes it really easy for me to channel them. Animals don't have agendas. They don't hold a grudge. They're fully present in the moment, and they really understand unconditional love. Anyone who has a companion animal knows this.
Yes.
So I encourage everybody to attune through the heart to their animal friends, and see what you get. You might be surprised. It's not that it always has to be the animal communicating like, well, my stomach hurts, or I need a new food, or something of that more 3D nature. You can just connect to their heart and see, feel what's there. It could be that they're just beaming pure love at you. That's awesome. They are, by the way, they're always doing that. And I find I do channel a lot for clients who have questions about their pets. Maybe they've adopted a new one and they want to know if their current pet is adapting well to this new family member, or what they need differently. And so I can get into that in the channeling. But I also find that we know our animals best. It's kind of like, as a parent, I know my kids best. The doctors know what they know, but really I'm kind of the expert on all those other areas. So it's the same with our animals. And again, with self-trust, you can start to connect with your pets on the heart and spirit and soul level, just by spending some quiet time with them, just by putting your hands on them, just by attuning to them. And if you have questions, you can ask those silently through your heart and see what comes through. Trust what comes through.
Well, I may have shared this story previously on a show, but I have to share it with you because it's such a profound story. We had a dog named Sadie, and we adopted her. I think she was about 3 years old at that point, and she was just the love of our lives. She arrived with the person that rescued her named her Radar, because she had these big ears. And and I said, "Oh, no, 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 that's not a good name for her." So I meditated, and she immediately came to me in my meditation and said, "My name is Sadie." I said, "Okay, that's your name." And she immediately answered to it. And she she was ours for, I think, 10 years. And she was my love, but more importantly, she was my husband's baby, because we didn't have children. And he took her everywhere. He was a massage therapist, and she used to go in his massage bag everywhere with him. And when it's interesting even how she died. She was having all kinds of physical problems, and we knew it was time for her to not be here, but we just refused to do anything about it. And she was sitting on the bed with us, and she looked over at me, and she flew off the bed. Literally, it was clearly an act of suicide. And we took her to the emergency room, and they put her down. So from that point on, my husband said, "We're not getting another dog, ever." And so 10 years later, I was on my way falling asleep, and Sadie came to me clearly and said, "Royce, Mom, it's time to have another dog." And I said, "Okay, but your dad does not want another dog." She says, "Tell him I said so." So I leaned over to him and I said, "Sadie just came to me and said it's time to adopt another dog. Are you okay with that?" And he said, "Of course." So the next day, talk about trusting my intuition, I went online, I looked at a bunch of dogs. There was one that was looking at me going, "I'm your dog." Went over, picked her out. She's been with us ever since, and she's just like Sadie, except she barks a little bit more, but she is just now the love of both of our lives. Just the most amazing animal ever. So talk about trusting and listening to what these animals tell us. It's pretty amazing.
I
So
love that. Oh
yeah.
my gosh, I love that so much. I adopted my fourth dog this summer, and I tried different names with him, and he just wouldn't attend to any of them. So I even asked my email list community, can you help me name my dog? Because so far I'm not getting it. So I got all these great ideas, and me and my kids were like trying them out one after other. We would have all sorts of enthusiasm, as we would call him. He just completely ignored it. So someone wrote to me and said, why don't you just channel him? And I was sort of like, oh, duh. Okay. Let me channel what's up with the names. And he said to me, I don't like labels. I don't need a name. I will come where the energy summons me.
Oh, wow.
And so that's what we do. I gesture to him. I use my, the tone of my voice, and he always responds. I can call him any number of 10 different names, and it doesn't matter. But if I have the energy to call him in, he's right there. He's totally responsive.
That is amazing. Now, what do you do when you have to take him to the vet? No name?
Well, I've caused some confusion there because I have several different vets I use. I have a holistic vet and a Western vet and an acupuncture and all the things. And so I have, in the beginning, I gave the name he came with, and then we changed him to another name and then another name. And I had one vet recently say, who is this we're talking about? So I just picked one and went with it, but it's really not his name. And now I know why.
Yeah. Oh my God, that is too funny. That's amazing. Wow. So the other thing that I noticed on your bio is that you communicate with children on a soul level. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, I can channel any soul that's here on the planet. And oftentimes parents want to hear from the souls of their children so that they can understand what their kids need from them.
Yeah.
We have a culture that pretends that parents are like the authorities on their kids, and we're the teachers and we're supposed to guide them and do, but really the kids are teaching us.
Yes.
And we are here to assist with moving some obstacles out of the way to keep them safe and allow them to have access to the different paths that they might choose. But it's not this hierarchy of us above them. I've learned this time and time again with my own kids and in the channeling. So sometimes I'll have a family that needs me to channel their child who might have communication disorder or difficulty, sometimes on the autism spectrum, because they're not as verbally communicative. So we can tune into their soul, and their soul can, it's kind of just like a workaround so they can understand what the child is here to experience, what they need, what's working, what's not. And I've also channeled for really, really young kids whose moms are desperate for them to sleep, at night and don't understand what's going on. Why are they getting out of bed or coming to my room? And so, it's really beautiful when you can tap into the clarity of the soul and get what you need. It helps the dynamic enormously, and it brings peace and healing.
Yes. What about past life connections? Do you ever get into that?
Yeah. That's very useful, I find.
Yeah.
So it can really inform patterns that somebody is in, or some karmic completion that they are here to do, just wrapping up energetic bonds or relationships. Past lives can be very illuminating to give us insight as to why things are the way they are and what needs to happen in order for things to progress.
Yeah. Thank goodness I understood all that when my son was growing up, because there were all kinds of issues going on and they didn't make any sense to me. And I found that even just understanding the past life connection and what we're here to do together and what we're here to learn and clean up together caused shifts in him. It was really amazing. I didn't even have to say a word. And suddenly he would be different because I would be getting it,
Yes.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. Oh, now my dog is crying. Did you hear that? Yes, we're talking about your brother. Anyway, so tell us about your book. And you are working on another book, but tell us about your first book.
Sure. I wrote a book about my journey with my mother through her dementia. It's called Joining Joni. Her name was Joni. And it's not a channeling book, so I should be clear about that. It's not about soul communication. At the time that I wrote that, I was not at this place in my spiritual journey. But it's very practical from the clinician aspect of what I know as a speech pathologist, and also it's practical in terms of just lived experience. So there are certain things in that book that I think will be helpful and useful to anyone who is grappling with supporting someone with any type of cognitive decline. And the book kind of wrote itself. I just knew that I was still very close to the whole process when I started writing it right after my mom passed. And I knew that what I had learned would be so useful to others to help them, assist them in their journey. One of the things in there that's really useful is I really guide people away from trying to reorient their loved one to our reality, because that can be very jarring and disruptive and disconnecting. Instead, join them. This is why it's called joining Joni. Join them where they are in their reality. If they're seeing beings around them, cool. Find out who those beings are. What are they saying? How do they feel? Get in. Invite yourself to join them, or invite them to to allow you to join them in their experience, because otherwise it can be a very distancing experience. If I'm trying to tell my mom, no, it's not Monday, today's Saturday, remember? Who cares what day it is?
Yeah.
Just be wherever they're at and maximize your time together, because it's very, very limited. And the book that I'm working on right now is basically going to teach people how to channel for themselves.
Does it have a title at this point?
There's a lot that's working, in progress with that. So playing around with a couple different ones at the moment.
Yeah. Okay. That's awesome. Keep up the good work. Yes. So it's interesting, this whole discussion about dogs. My dog is now sitting here, licking my hand, making little whining sounds. It's really interesting what's going on. What are you sensing?
She wants your attention.
Yeah. So I know that I looked at your website and you offer all kinds of trainings and sessions. Tell us everything that you offer and a little bit more about what people can expect from taking your classes and taking your trainings.
Sure. On the website, there are 2 recorded classes right now. One is a class to teach how to use a pendulum. I love to teach pendulum work because it's how I learned to channel. It's just one tool of many, though. So if it doesn't float your boat, don't feel like you won't be able to channel. It's just that's not your tool. But I know how to teach it in a way that is light and joyful and playful. And so I invite people to experiment with a pendulum, because a pendulum can give you yes and no answers. It can spell out words. It can give you the names of your guides. It's really endless what you can do with it. And then my other recorded class is a Yes, You Can Learn to Channel class. And that's a 3 or 4 part series where I bring my strategies and techniques to it was a live class that's recorded, so that you can practice how to get out of your own way and how to create the opportunities for your connection to be made manifest.
So pendulum, it's something that I've never used. So
Okay.
want to tell us a little bit more about that? Because it's obviously the yes no thing, but how does it spell things out? Or
Yeah. So I have this letter board that I use. Some people have asked if it's a Ouija board. No, it is not. It's just a grid with letters on it and some numbers. And what I teach people how to do is, let's say I want to ask a question like, may I have the name of a spirit guide that is present with me right now? A short name, please, or a nickname. Right. And you want to specify that when you're learning, because otherwise you'll get like Francisco de something, or, who knows, it's going to be a long name. And then you hold your pendulum. You need to support your elbow on a surface, but you hold it over the middle and you allow for it to, circle and move towards a particular letter. And then when you think you see the letter that it is going towards, you move the pendulum directly over that letter and you ask, is it, and it looks like Q. So I'm asking, is it Q? And then you'll get a yes or no. And then you can say next letter, please. Now, this is an arduous process, to be clear, Royce. This is not for impatient people.
Right.
This is not for people who are, who just want to quickly get an answer in a hurry. But what I find about channeling is if you're really committed to doing this well and clearly and in the highest divine vibration, you'll dedicate the time to it. So pendulum work is a great way of weeding out those who are serious about wanting to cultivate their gifts and those who just want an instantaneous answer. And if you just want an instantaneous answer, then pay for a session for someone to channel for you. But if you want to learn to do this for yourself, which you can do, then invest the time and the energy and the resources to do so.
Now, what about things like, okay, pendulum, tell me what my purpose is in life? Does it do things like that, or do you recommend people channel things like that themselves, or how does that work?
Well, it is channeling. Using the pendulum is with channeling. So if you wanted to ask, everything, the way you ask your questions is everything.
Yeah.
So, and with pendulum work especially, because we can really go off in a wrong direction by saying like, should I marry Johnny? You don't want to ask that of your pendulum, okay? You don't want to, for a number of reasons. One is you probably have strong attachment to the answer of that. You're not neutral. Secondly, should is tricky. You don't want to ask should, because what is should in the spirit world? What you want to ask is something like, does it serve my highest good to stay in this relationship with Johnny right now? And then your pendulum, your guides, your higher self, whoever it is that you've programmed to receive your, to connect to, can inform you in that way. So a lot has to do with the way you ask the question. A lot has to do with the preparation of yourself before you start practicing. Don't sit down to do any channeling work or any pendulum work. If, like I said, if you're grumpy, if you have to pee, if there's any physical discomfort, like you just don't want to rush this. Spirit deserves our time and our space.
Yeah. So I'm just thinking as you're talking, the way things unfolded in my life, if some pendulum or some channeler had said to me, this is what you're going to be doing, and this is what, if they had laid it all out for me, I would have run for the hills.
Yeah.
Because it needed to unfold when I was ready. And it's taken decades for it to all unfold, and it's still unfolding.
Yes.
So how do you deal with people like that say, no way?
Well, in the way that I channel, it's not predictive. I do not tell anyone who they're going to be, what they're going to do, who they're going to find, what job they're going to pursue. And when people ask, what's my soul purpose? The answer is to love, to get closer to divine, perfect love. That's why our souls are here. That's why we choose certain relationships, to play things out, to work through stuff. So I'm free from having to break any news to people that they don't want to hear, like, sorry, but you're going to be a dentist, so you probably want to go back to school. That's not the way I channel. And I don't think that's useful, because we have free will. We can change our minds on a dime, and we do it all the time, and we're supposed to. That's wonderful and enjoyable. So asking anything that's predictive or futuristic in nature, I always redirect my clients, or I will give them another type of question, just like I showed you a moment ago, of this is what will be in highest service for you to know or ask right now, so we can attune in that way.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Tell them to go to a psychic instead.
Right. And some people do get a lot of benefit from those types of futuristic predictions. But what I have found is knowing the future, I feel like gives us two options, neither of which sound very good to me. One is that we can become complacent. and not really fully show up to who we're here as a soul to be if we think we know how things are going to turn out. And the second option is it can create tremendous fear and chaos if you if you already know how things are going to turn out. I had dinner with a friend last night, and she said to me, "Well, do you think that this is going to happen or that's going to happen?" And I told her, I'm not. We have to be here, fully here in this moment, because that is how. That's the agreement of being embodied and being a soul having a human experience, and that's where we can do our greatest work and deepest connection.
Yes. I'm noticing that somebody texted a question, are you licensed? I'm not sure what that means.
Yeah, I don't know what that means either.
I think channelers are licensed.
I am not familiar with any licensure process.
Yeah.
When I was a speech pathologist, I was, yes.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. Sorry, we can't answer that question. Okay, so back to what I was saying or asking you. Tell us once again, how do people find you? What do you offer? What do you suggest if somebody is in the middle of, some kind of a huge event or thinking about the world and they're concerned? Tell us some guiding principles that you give people or what you can do to help them.
Yeah. I think it's imperative for all of us to center ourselves daily and multiple times a day. And the heart, I find, is the most useful organ for doing that. The mind, the brain, it's harder to do that. I find the work of the Heart Math Institute to be enormously beneficial because they teach heart-brain coherence activities or meditations, and they're really, really, really simple in nature, and you can do them in a few minutes time. And when the heart and the brain are in coherence, there's no energy that's wasted. So the waves are matched, they're kind of lined up together, and there's a peace then that we can experience. We are all contributing to the field in one way or another. So if I am in angst and fear and anxiety, that is the energy I'm contributing to the field. And if I am in peace and centeredness and allowing and love, that is the energy I'm contributing to the field. And we want to think about what we are contributing, because it does have an immediate impact and effect. We might not see it. We oftentimes don't. And there's not a very specific way to prove it or study it right now, although the Heart Math Institute has brilliant researchers and they have instrumentation to study a lot of the coherence that we are adding to the field. But anything that you do to bring peace and steadiness, groundedness, centeredness to yourself is going to benefit others, certainly your family, certainly your friends, your community, and it actually extends well beyond that. And I do think we have a responsibility for excellent energetic hygiene. That's what I call it. And that's what I teach in my classes.
I love that. EEH. That's great. So, back to my question about past lives, since I do a lot of work with people and their past lives, I find that releasing what you have held on to subconsciously from lifetimes, hundreds of lifetimes, really brings you into that energy that you're referring to. I think it's just so imperative. Do you help people to release past life traumas and past life incidents that they've committed? Any of that work going on?
No. When I'm channeling, I'm simply a vessel for information
Yeah.
and insight to come through. I am not identifying as a healer. I'm not making any adjustments to their energies. I am not going backwards and interacting with anything that has occurred. I'm simply bringing through in words and language and the imagery that I am being shown what is there. So what I know, though, is that so much healing occurs as a result of that. My clients they tell me about it all the time. It's not a result of what I'm doing. Our own healers. And that's something that each client that, comes to me for a session or you for yours, authority over that. The client does over our own healing.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, Stephanie, for sharing your wisdom and all that you're doing. Keep up the good work. Do you have a website that you can tell people?
Sure. It's soulinsight.com.
Excellent. Thank you. And just like I said, keep up the good work. And to remind everybody that I am starting a new 10-week Perfect Life Awakening course on Sunday, January 26th at noon Pacific time. Reach out to me at perfectlifeawakening.com. It went away for a second. And I will give you more information and sign you up, because I would love to have some of the people that have been watching my show. I've been doing this for a couple of years. So thank you so much. And I will see you guys next Wednesday, I think. Something. I don't know. That might be Christmas. I don't know. The schedule is all screwy, but I'll be here. Thank you. You take care of yourself, and self-care. Deserve. Thank you.
Thank you, Royce.